First things first, I want to thank everyone out there for subscribing and watching these videos and sharing them. Now, I've got over 100 subscribers now, but I'm hoping to increase that number soon. My goal is to have at least 1,000 by the end of this month and hopefully 2,000 by the end of July. So, again, I'm not making any money from any of these videos. I don't have a big budget or anything. I'm doing this all by my iPhone. And more to the point, I'm doing this all because it needs to be done. Because no one else is doing it and no one else will speak out. Especially in situations like this. Today, that being, of course, Sunday, June the 9th, Donald Trump had another rally. And obviously, you pretty much know how that all goes down. Anyway, I wanted to focus on two people. The first is, of course, Roger Stone, the guy who's got a Nixon tattoo on his back. Why? I don't know. The guy's mentally out there, and he sometimes dresses like Mr. Magoo. Anyway, he posted a photo on Twitter with Donald Trump with a Bible in his hand saying, "Endorsed by Jesus Christ." The second is, during that rally itself I told you about earlier, Mary Jean Taylor Greene, who is the most useless woman in the United States Congress in its history, decided to say that I only worship Jesus, another person who was persecuted by Romans. Now, I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm not here to try to bring people to Jesus. If you do, by this video, thank you and welcome. But here are the facts. Even if you don't believe in the stories, even if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, that statement right there should haunt you, really haunt you. It's just doing me right now. Now, of course, the story of the crucifixion. Everyone who believes in the story knows that Christ was crucified for the sins of mankind. I wholeheartedly believe that, I confess that, and by that I am saved through his sacrifice. But what these two people are trying to do, Roger Stone and Mary Jean Taylor Greene, trying to compare Donald Trump and everything he's going through with the trials and tribulations of Jesus Christ himself, that to me shows how dangerous these two people really are. Now, if you want to compare the two, now I've done this before in previous videos, but it feels like every time I hear someone do this, I have to make a video like this so I can make sure everyone knows the difference between Jesus Christ and Donald Trump. Jesus Christ, if you believe in the Bible, if you read the Bible, if you spent at least 1 or 2 Sundays in Sunday school, you will understand that Jesus Christ lived a perfect life of truth, and he was crucified for it. He didn't preach hatred. He didn't preach ideology. He didn't preach hating one another. He preached brotherhood and sisterhood with one's brother and sister. And he was crucified for it. But if you want to get into real deep context into this, Jesus Christ was taken by the Romans, the Roman government, because he did not submit to them and not say that the Romans, that Caesar himself was God. They executed him. First, they beat him, they mutilated him, they mocked him, they did everything under the sun to him. They forced him to march miles with a cross, holding a cross, lugging it around for miles, and they crucified him. The sweet sacrifice, as we call it. Jesus Christ didn't hate the people that did this to him. He was fulfilling a greater purpose. Now let's look at Donald Trump, a man who has not shown a single bit of Christ-like behavior in his entire life. A man who's matter of fact, if you want to put into context, if anything, Donald Trump is more like the Roman soldiers who crucified him. Donald Trump is like Caesar, who thinks he's a god and crucified Jesus Christ because of that. If you want to put that into real context. All of this is stemming from the fact that Mary Jean Taylor Greene was called out a few days ago while trying to actually embarrass Dr. Anthony Fauci during one of those oversight committees in which Mary Jean Taylor Greene went full hawk, saying that Dr. Fauci should be put in prison for the rest of his life as a mass murderer. And then one of the congressmen, I believe, I think it was Adam Schiff, if I might be mistaken, mind you, pretty much called out, yeah, matter of fact, it was Adam Schiff, practically called out everything Mary Jean Taylor Greene said. And most of the point actually said that Mary Jean Taylor Greene worships Donald Trump, which she does, honestly. Let's be honest with each other, Mary Jean. You do worship this guy. You really do. What other sane person, matter of fact, what other sane Christian would call someone who is the walking embodiment of all 7 of the deadly sins? A person who has not even taken the time or the mentality or even the gumption to try to change his ways. A person who hasn't shown a least bit of Christ-like behavior in the 4 years he was president and in the 4 years he was out of the presidency. See, I made videos about this, calling out every single thing that is wrong with Donald Trump and people comparing him to Jesus Christ. At no point have I ever heard Christ ever say that the immigrants are poison to this country. That was all Donald Trump. I never heard Jesus Christ downplay people or belittle people he doesn't like, calling them all kinds of 5th grade, 3rd grade names. That's all Donald Trump. So when you're trying to compare the two, compare what Jesus Christ went through to what Donald Trump is currently going through, even though he delayed almost all the rest of his court cases and more to the point became a convicted felon in the New York hush money case, despite the fact that, I still laugh about this, despite the fact that a letter was sent to the judge that happened to be fake by another faker. I mean, this is how desperate these people really are. They're so desperate to try and exonerate Donald Trump that they'll do anything, including fake things, in order to get Donald Trump out of prison, maybe not out of prison yet, but out of the predicament he put himself into. It's a shame that we're in this predicament right now in this country, that we have to scrutinize the laws, scrutinize everything around them just because it's Donald Trump. It's got to stop. Donald Trump might get reelected as president, and if that happens, this country is destroyed. But when you start trying to compare a man like Donald Trump, who has not shown a bit of Christ-like behavior in his entire life, and compare that man to a person like Jesus Christ himself, to a person who was sent by God to save us from the sins of mankind. When you do that, when you compare the two, your soul is already lost. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a priest, I'm not anything like that. I'm not going to claim that I'm all holy. But in my estimation, and this is my personal opinion, and I think a lot of pastors and a lot of real priests and real pastors, not the right-wing ones who are going up in churches screaming about wanting to go to war for Donald Trump. If you don't, you're not of God. Shane Vaughn, I'm talking about you. The moment you do that, the moment that happens, your soul is lost. I'm serious. Your soul is totally and completely lost. And there is no coming back from that. There's no coming back from those facts. There's no coming back from any of it. When you try to compare the sweet sacrifice to a man who's the embodiment of all the 7 deadly sins and continues to do that, to do all of it without regret, and not even without taking responsibility for the consequences he creates, your soul is lost. Now, Donald Trump can scream, huff, and holler all he wants to, but in the end of the day, Donald Trump is responsible for the things he did to get him to this point. As I said earlier, he's a convicted felon. All 34 charges in the New York case, he was found guilty by a jury of his peers. And despite the fact that he got all the other cases pending against him, either delayed or taken out completely, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop the evidence we have against him. This man isn't being persecuted like Jesus Christ was. This man is being held accountable for the crimes he committed. Now you can try to compare him to Christ, but you'll always lose. You know why you'll lose? Because Donald Trump wasn't sent by God to save us from our sins. Jesus Christ was. Donald Trump didn't preach love, harmony, brotherhood, and sisterhood. Jesus Christ did. You see the differences? I hope you see the differences. Because once you commingle those differences, you're saying that everything Donald Trump has done, even when it's done irreparable damage to people and to this country, you're saying, who is Jesus Christ? I vaguely remember his name. Jesus, who was that? And that is exactly what's going to happen. The MAGA is crossing a very dangerous line that it may not be able to come back from. I see the differences. Do you? CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.